The galactic broadcast began, as all catastrophes do, with a calm voice and a terrible decision. "This is a message from the Council of Unified Galactic Powers," the alien announcer said, with the serene bureaucratic indifference only someone with 17 mouths and a species history of annexing planets could possess. "We have temporarily relocated 37 juvenile Homo sapiens for cultural assimilation and safety reconditioning. Please remain calm." On Earth, humanity collectively paused its caffeine intake for 3 seconds, which, in recorded history, had only happened once before, during the Great Coffee Shortage of 2132. 3 seconds after the pause, humanity got to work. Jonah Red sipped his espresso, watching the footage on the wall-length display in front of him. His office aboard the UN Stellar Command vessel Diplomacy of Fire smelled faintly of dark roast and ozone. He was calm, composed, and immaculately dressed in a black uniform tailored with the deceptive softness of silk and the lethal efficiency of a scalpel. His eyes didn't blink often, which unnerved most people. But when he smiled, when he truly smiled, entire war rooms tensed. "Well," he murmured to no one in particular, "they've made it interesting." The door hissed open. Colonel Nadia Voss entered with the graceful stomp of someone who thought walking quietly was for cowards. She tossed a datapad onto his desk. "That's the confirmed list. Field trip to the Martian moon base, Phobos. School kids, ages 8 through 15. All accounted for. All gone. No casualties, though." Jonah didn't look at the pad. He kept watching the broadcast, rewinding and analyzing frame by frame with his eyes alone. "They tagged it as an educational relocation," he said, voice like honey stirred with a knife. "Fascinating euphemism. Very polite of them." "They think we're going to negotiate," Nadia said, folding her arms. "They don't understand us at all." Jonah finally looked at her. His smile returned. It wasn't warm. "They will." 3 days later, Earth addressed the Galactic Council via its newly upgraded FTL diplomatic array. The representative was a man who looked like your favorite uncle. Gray beard, sweater vest, absolutely lethal. He opened with a joke, as humans do. "We're grateful for your hospitality in caring for our children. However, we do not authorize cultural reprogramming unless it's part of a theme park experience." Polite laughter followed. The Galactic Council, composed of 12 dominant alien species and 48 lesser affiliates, viewed the screen with cautious amusement. Humanity had joined the galactic scene only 50 years ago and had, for the most part, been charmingly unpredictable. Their cultural exports, pop music, reality shows, scented candles, had swept through the outer rim colonies like a virus of glitter and hormones. But now, the Council saw the edge beneath the sparkle. Humanity was still smiling. But they were also moving. Task Force Revenant launched from Earth's orbital docks in synchronized silence. 70,000 specialists, soldiers, diplomats, linguists, hackers, strategists, engineers, and a few unreasonably aggressive botanists entered FTL in ships named things like Just Checking In, Polite Reminder, and Customer Complaint Resolution Unit. The aliens monitored the launch. The Council's military analyst, a shriveled exoskeletal being named Director Vuth, laughed through his mandibles. 70,000? That's barely a swarm. The arch-seer, Velani of the Dralac species, did not laugh. Her translucent skin shimmered in unease. She had once watched a single human diplomat collapse an empire over dinner and wine pairings. "They did not send 70,000, she whispered. "They chose 70,000. That is very different." Meanwhile, Jonah stood in the command chamber of the Diplomacy of Fire, watching their target draw closer, Velshire Prime, a minor administrative planet on the fringe of Empire territory. It wasn't where the children were, but it was the place from which the abduction order had been issued. That, to humans, was enough. Jonah's crew operated with casual precision. Lieutenant Imani, a comms officer who sang vintage soul music to herself while decoding encrypted alien messages, glanced up. "They're pinging us," she said, one earbud still in. "Local Defense Net wants to know our purpose." Jonah straightened his uniform, tugged once at the cuff like a conductor preparing a symphony. "Open channel." A fuzzy alien face appeared. "Amphibian," vaguely annoyed. Jonah beamed. "Greetings from Earth," he said, voice rich with diplomatic warmth. "We're here for the children." The alien blinked, gurgled, and replied, "This is a restricted system. You are violating Empire." Jonah's ship activated its comm suppression field mid-sentence. The screen fizzled out. He turned to Imani. "Remind me to send them a strongly worded letter." Imani nodded. "With glitter?" "Oh, absolutely." The assault on Velshire Prime was not an invasion. It was an adjustment. Human special forces landed without sound. Infrastructure was not destroyed. It was gently compromised. Power grids were overloaded by looped videos of raccoons solving puzzles. Artificial intelligences were reprogrammed to develop existential crises. Defensive satellites played non-stop cooking tutorials in 17 human languages. They left behind handwritten apology notes on every compromised system. One read: "Your firewall was charming. We gave it a cookie. Hope you don't mind the backdoor we installed. Love, Earth." In 72 minutes, Velshire Prime surrendered. Jonah and Nadia strolled through the planetary capital's central plaza, as alien officials scurried to avoid their gaze. Jonah examined the architecture like a tourist. Nadia muttered into her comms, directing extraction teams. "You know they're going to call for reinforcements," she said. "They'll debate first," Jonah replied. "They don't understand urgency. They've never had to raise a teenager with access to power tools." Nadia snorted. Elsewhere, in the heart of the Galactic Council, panic brewed. Ambassador Thresk, a high-ranking official from the Ellerin Empire, stood tall, slithered tall, before the chamber. His smooth silver scales glistened under the biolight. "This is clearly an overreaction," he sneered. "A primitive species, reacting emotionally. We must present strength." "You kidnapped their offspring," murmured Velenai. "Even predators protect their young." "They are not predators," Thresk spat. "They are quaint, loud, disorganized." The lights dimmed. A new feed played in the chamber. Footage from Velshire Prime. Human operatives delivering medical supplies while disabling planetary defenses. One soldier calmly pets an alien dog analog as she disables its owner's security drones. Another leads a seminar on cyber ethics to a group of curious alien teens. All of it coordinated, strategic, precise. The chamber fell silent. Then came the message. Jonah read, addressing the galaxy. His face was calm, voice smooth, every word measured like a scalpel. "You have our children. We are retrieving them. This is not war. This is an adjustment. We prefer peace, but we prepare for everything." He paused, smiling faintly. "To those who believe we are overreacting, you're correct. We overreact very well. It's one of our favorite pastimes." The message ended. In the stunned silence, the seer finally spoke. "They are not attacking us," she said. "They are testing us." Back aboard Diplomacy of Fire, Jonah sat at his desk, reviewing troop reports. Nadia stood nearby, arms crossed. "They've started retreating on the outer rim." "Good," Jonah said. "Now let's give them something to retreat from." A small chime sounded. Imani leaned in through the doorway. "We've located the children." "Confirmed." Jonah looked up. "Location?" "Station 14. Orbital Education Hub in the Nihal system. Lightly guarded." Jonah rose. "Then we pay them a visit." The ship shifted course. Across the fleet, orders were given in clean, polite tones. Every human smiled. As the ship slipped back into FTL, Jonah looked out at the stars and whispered to himself, "You poked the bear, friends. And we brought 70,000 claws." And for the first time, the galaxy wondered if it had made a very, very big mistake. The human fleet dropped into orbit above Velshire Prime, with the grace of a polite fist, ready to knock down a door. 70 vessels, their hulls matte black and unadorned save for the small, gold insignia of Earth's United Front, appeared without fanfare or threat displays. No boasting. No announcement. Just presence. Sudden. Quiet. Deliberate. The planetary defense grid scrambled. Alarms blared across Velsher Prime's command citadel. Commander Terahel, a quadrupedal veteran of a dozen interstellar skirmishes, watched the data flood in with growing unease. No weapons were locked. No demands made. No standard invasion protocols triggered. Just 70 human ships in high orbit. Watching. Then, a message pinged in. "Greetings from Earth," came the voice. Smooth, polite, warm enough to unsettle. "We're here to retrieve some misplaced property. Children, to be specific. We apologize for the inconvenience. Should you wish to expedite our exit, simply surrender all responsible parties and vacate all military positions within a 3-kilometer radius. Thank you kindly." No threats. No ultimatums. Terahel grunted, mandibles clicking. He turned to his second-in-command, a younger officer already sweating beneath her armored crest. "They don't sound dangerous," she said. "That's what worries me," he muttered, and raised the planetary shields. On the diplomacy of fire, Jonah Red tilted his head slightly as the energy signatures lit up on the display. "Interesting choice," he said, sipping his coffee. "They chose escalation over compliance. I wonder if they think we bluff." Colonel Nadia Voss stood beside him, arms folded, eyes on the incoming data. "They haven't seen us play yet," she said. Jonah gave a slow nod. "Let's introduce them." The operation was labeled Graceful Extraction. The name was chosen deliberately, not for subtlety, but for irony. Jonah approved it with the same smile he used to sign off airstrikes disguised as agricultural outreach. The first wave launched in silence. Human boarding parties rode in cloaked drop pods that entered the atmosphere like whispers. No fire trails, no explosions. They landed across Velsher Prime's critical points: communication centers, orbital control, defense terminals. In one server facility, 3 Marines disabled the AI core with a banana. Not metaphorically, an actual banana. It was part of an exploit package that triggered a panic protocol in the food safety override subroutine. A backup AI took over, only to be flooded with human recipes, and became obsessed with meatloaf variations. At a command outpost, Lieutenant Keller hacked into the defense net by uploading an animated video titled, 101 Ways to Lose a Galactic War. It began with a cartoon alien hitting ignore on a human transmission. The virus embedded in the file rewrote the targeting algorithms to identify anything not human as hostile. The entire system shut itself down within minutes to prevent a diplomatic incident, an ironic protocol put in place after a prior human misunderstanding involving fireworks and a royal coronation. By the time Velsher Prime's leadership understood what was happening, over half their infrastructure was in human hands. Not destroyed, repurposed, gently insulted, and sometimes improved. Humans didn't raise cities. They left them functioning, baffled, and slightly addicted to caffeine. Jonah walked through the corridors of Velsher's central command station, escorted by 2 operatives in armor that hummed quietly with reactive tech. The corridors were empty save for scattered, discarded weapons and a few still steaming drones, now functioning as polite coffee carts. He stopped before a wide set of doors and waited. Inside, Commander Trawl was pacing. Jonah knocked. The doors opened. Trawl raised his claws, growling. "This is an illegal incursion." "Retrieval mission," Jonah corrected, stepping inside with casual calm. "You're still using gas-cooled lasers in atmosphere, by the way. Inefficient. You should look into our new coil systems. Less heat bleed." Trawl narrowed his eyes. "You attacked us without provocation. You took our children. There was no violence." "You misunderstand," Jonah said, voice low and even. "The presence of violence is not what triggers war. It's the intent behind the action. You abducted our young. That told us everything we needed to know." Trawl hissed, stepping back. "You won't get away with this. The Empire will retaliate." Jonah offered a soft smile, the kind you'd give a neighbor who just stepped onto your lawn mid-barbecue. "They'll try," he said. "But you see, retaliation works best when you're still in control. Right now, you're not even running your own traffic lights." Behind him, Nadia's comm pinged. We've secured all child transport logs, came the voice. Nihal system. Orbital hub designated Station 14. Jonah raised a brow. Distance? 2 jumps. Minimal resistance. But there's something else. The children, there's transmissions. They've been sending coded messages. Embedded in harmless gaming data packets. We thought they were just playing Minecraft. Jonah turned, smiling. Of course they were. But they're human. We game strategically. Back in orbit, the human fleet repositioned. There was no need to fire a shot. Velshire Prime was pacified. Not with brute force, but with calm efficiency, overwhelming logic and quiet mockery. On the Galactic net, the memes had already begun spreading. One popular image showed a human soldier smiling as she poured coffee for an alien guard in handcuffs. The caption read, "War's rough. You take cream." As the fleet moved toward Station 14, alien analysts convened emergency sessions. Humans do not follow traditional warfare doctrine, one said, tentacle flicking nervously. They dismantle from within, added another. They smile while doing it, whispered a third. At Station 14, the lead warden, an insectoid with a fondness for monologues, watched the transmission from Velshire Prime and began to sweat. The humans were coming. And they were coming with manners. In preparation, Station 14 doubled its guard units and initiated full lockdown. But the children had already started Phase 2. Hidden cameras. Rigged airlocks. Subtle sabotage. Their teacher, Ms. Tamara Gillian, former U.S. Marine, currently posing as a field trip chaperone, had trained them well. When human ships arrived, the docking bays opened before the guards could react. The first teams entered without fanfare, greeted by children offering handmade welcome signs and a coordinated rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner, which none of the aliens understood, but found deeply unsettling. Inside the main hub, Ms. Gillian met Jonah at the entrance. "Took your time," she said, smirking. "You did most of the work," he replied. "Excellent use of decoys." One of the kids hotwired a janitorial droid to cry on command. "I'll recommend him for officer training." Together, they led the children back through secured corridors while Nadia and her teams rounded up the guards. There were no casualties. There was, however, a great deal of embarrassment. The last transmission from Station 14, before the humans departed, was a still image of a chalkboard reading, "Thanks for watching our kids. Next time, ask nicely. Love Earth." As the fleet returned to its original trajectory, children safely aboard, Jonah addressed the UN via secure channel. "Phase 1 is complete. The children are secure. However, our mission has only just begun. The act of taking them was not a mistake. It was a message. And it's our turn to reply." Back at the Galactic Council, chaos simmered. "They outmaneuvered us without firing a shot," said Thresk, eyes wide and gleaming. "This is not war. This is strategy." The seer remained silent. Another ambassador shouted, "What species trains their children to be spies?" "Humans," came the answer. "Apparently, all of them." In the silence that followed, the seer finally spoke. "They are not conquerors. They are not invaders. They are teachers. And this lesson will echo." Across the galaxy, border colonies began locking down. Armories were reinforced. Trade routes scrambled. Fear rippled, not of human weapons, but of human planning. Jonah sat in his quarters, sipping fresh coffee brewed by a machine that also doubled as a tactical AI. He scrolled through the reports. No casualties, morale high, data retrieved, enemies confused. He smiled. They were only just getting started. Outside the window, the stars rolled past. And in every direction, the galaxy watched Earth and braced. The stars spun gently outside the command deck, like 1,000 indifferent eyes pretending not to watch. But Jonah Red knew better. The galaxy was always watching now. They had stirred the hornet's nest, thinking they were poking a beehive. And hornets, well, hornets don't pollinate. They hunt. Jonah leaned over the hollow table, fingers steepled, eyes narrowed at the projections spinning in light. Dozens of alien factions, military nodes, trade networks, cultural spheres, all outlined in soft pulses of green, red, and yellow. A symphony of weakness and ambition, waiting to be played. You ever notice how all galactic diplomacy is just really aggressive small talk? Jonah said, breaking the silence. Nadia Voss, standing across from him with a datapad in one hand and a half-eaten protein bar in the other, didn't look up. It's like that neighbor who keeps saying, "Nice lawn." But what he means is, "I will salt your garden and feed your roses to raccoons if you park on my side again." Jonah chuckled. Exactly. That's the level we're playing on now. Everyone smiles. Everyone plots. The rescue of the children had gone viral, literally and figuratively. Across the galactic net, Earth's reputation had mutated from annoyingly persistent primitives to unpredictable apex tacticians with a flair for drama. Memes exploded. Send the humans became a joke, a warning, and a prayer. But Jonah hadn't stopped at saving the children. That had just been the opening move. Let's check the side effects, he said, activating a data overlay. The real mission had never been just about the kids. Oh, he'd meant every word of vengeance and justice. But there had been opportunity and outrage. The abduction had given Earth a golden excuse to engage the galaxy at scale, not with brute force, but with something far more dangerous: culture. You ever wonder what happens when you give 16 species access to binge-watch Earth media for 2 weeks straight? Asked Imani, entering the room and tossing a fresh report onto the table. Because, I think the Relexi just formed a soap opera-based religion. Nadia raised an eyebrow. Are they worshipping fictional characters again? They're calling it the Church of the Endless Cliffhanger. I'm not even mad. One of their high priests quoted Friends during a treaty negotiation. Jonah nodded. Perfect. Distractions working. Earth had unleashed not armies but entertainment, countless petabytes of films, shows, drama and music, embedded with subtle algorithms, memes and linguistic seeds. Some of it was nonsense, some of it had strategic value, and all of it was irresistible. While they're trying to understand the meaning of a Karen, we're charting their supply routes, Jonah muttered, running a finger along a highlighted corridor. 3 key trade networks, already fraying at the edges. Nadia set down her protein bar. How much of this is misdirection, and how much is actual manipulation? Yes, Jonah replied. Beneath the humor, though, lay something sharper, something older. Humanity had learned to survive by adapting. Now they were adapting faster than the galaxy could monitor. The systems Earth had deployed, linguistic viruses, subliminal data patterns, false trade offers, were designed not just to confuse, but to change behaviors. Take the Vurathi Syndicate, for example. Smugglers. Pirates. Infamous for trafficking organic tech and enslaved workers. Within 6 days of exposure to Earth streaming content, they'd scrapped half their fleet to create pleasure barges, modeled after 1980s Las Vegas. The rest had fled to the Outer Rim in shame after being doxxed by a viral Earth spreadsheet titled, "Which criminal cartel are you based on your favorite pasta?" Ruraxis trade unions are fracturing, Nadia said, tapping the hologram. We gave them 7 competing economic theories. They picked all of them. At once. Fantastic, Jonah said. How's the Skajan consulate? Imani pulled up a subreport. Internal coup. They're debating whether humans are demons, gods, or a secret third thing. And the Ellerin? Imani hesitated. That's more complicated. Jonah looked up. Complicated how? They're starting to organize. Faster than the others. Thresk's not dumb. Arrogant, yes, but he's figuring out that we're not just improvising. Jonah sighed and turned to the viewport. Out there, Thresk's empire was watching, waiting. Gathering. It was time to show them the second layer. Wake the sleepers, he said softly. Deploy Project Hostile Hospitality. Nadia gave a low whistle. Didn't think we'd use that one so soon. It's not soon. It's exactly when they think we're still playing nice. Earth's Project Hostile Hospitality wasn't a weapon. It was a series of quietly deployed, well-resourced embassies, hidden within colonies, outposts, and even enemy territory, designed to do one thing: make the enemy comfortable. Too comfortable. Each site appeared open, welcoming, peaceful. They offered resources, entertainment, and cultural exchange opportunities. They even offered spa services. Most importantly, they logged every visitor, recorded every interaction, and mapped every response. Agent Bellamy already embedded in Sector 4, Nadia reported. Her tea shops pulling in half the planetary council. No one suspects a thing. Good, Jonah replied. Let's keep feeding them chamomile and false hope. At the Galactic Council's emergency session, chaos brewed beneath civility. Ambassador Thresk stood tall, his silver scales polished and gleaming under the biodome's lights. They are destabilizing everything, he growled, tail twitching. No planet, no system is immune. They've weaponized charisma. They've turned convenience into conquest. Maybe don't abduct their young next time, the seer said quietly from her perch. Thresk ignored her. They smile. They deliver entertainment. They promise prosperity. Then your people start wearing pantsuits, quoting sitcoms, and questioning command structures. That sounds less like invasion and more like evolution, muttered one of the lesser delegates. Thresk snarled. They have no intention of stopping. And you think violence will work? I think, Thresk said, his voice cold. It's the only thing they haven't tried yet. Back aboard the Diplomacy of Fire, Jonah received the report from Agent Bellamy. The Ellerin were staging a counteroffensive. Good. Finally. He sat down, pulling up an encrypted map, one that had been in the works long before the children had been taken. Dozens of Ellerin strongholds were circled. Each one was already compromised. Not by bombs. Not by saboteurs. By debt. Earth had inserted itself into galactic commerce with surgical precision. Currency exchange markets. Minor investments in logistics. Backdoor control of food shipments. None of it flashy. All of it terrifying. They're about to discover half their fleet relies on Earth-licensed supply chains, Nadia said, sounding impressed. Jonah murmured, scrolling through financial data. And the other half will learn their AI cores now recognize human faces as default commanding officers. Your trap's almost ready, Imani said. No, Jonah said. Their trap is almost sprung. Because the final phase wasn't about defeating the Ellerin, or any species. It was about revealing a lesson. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Every step so far had been calculated to lull the galaxy into a false sense of superiority. Humanity, ever adaptable, had studied its enemies. And they knew one unifying truth: the powerful fear chaos. And humans were beautiful at chaos. Nadia leaned in. You ready to tell them? Jonah nodded once. Broadcast. The feed went live across the galactic net. Jonah stood alone in a simple gray room. No weapons. No flag behind him. Just a man in a neat suit, his expression calm, his eyes warm and terrifying. Hello again, he began. This message is for those who have been watching, wondering what we want, why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing. He paused. We're here because you took our children. Another pause. A breath. But you didn't just take them. You assumed we'd accept it. That we'd beg. That we'd threaten and posture, and negotiate from a position of inferiority. He stepped forward. We did none of those things. A flicker. Images played behind him. Clips of coordinated rescues, cultural takeovers, propaganda campaigns run on charm and caffeine. We responded not with rage, but with intent. We came with open hands and closed files. We studied you. We learned you. And then we let you see us, because there is no fear more powerful than realizing your prey was hunting you the whole time. He smiled. We didn't start this, but we've turned it into a lesson. And the lesson is simple. Another breath. Humanity does not seek conquest. We seek understanding. Peace, even. But if you cross us, if you endanger our future, we won't burn your cities. The image behind him cut to black. We'll own them. And you'll thank us for the hospitality. End transmission. Silence. Across the galaxy, silence. Then motion. The Ellerin launched an emergency fleet, 50 dreadnoughts, escorted by 300 support vessels. A display of force designed to scare Earth into submission. Instead, they arrived at their forward staging system and found nothing. No humans. No installations. No defenses. Just a single relay beacon, broadcasting a looped message. Sorry, this warfront is currently under maintenance. Please try again later. Behind them, while the Ellerin had surged forward, Earth's operatives had locked down their fuel supplies, bribed their rear command staff, and rerouted their entire internal comms to a public Earth forum where trolls began offering helpful advice. The fleet collapsed into disarray. Back on the diplomacy of fire, Jonah sat quietly, sipping tea. "Begin cleanup," he said. The war that had begun with stolen children was now something else entirely. Not a conflict. Not a conquest. A lesson. Taught with a smile. And they were only halfway through the syllabus. The fleet emerged into the Sol system without fanfare. No challenge, no dramatic threats, no flicker of hostility. The Ellerin Grand Armada, 50 dreadnoughts and 300 warships strong, was the largest military force ever dispatched toward a single planetary system. Each vessel shimmered with layered armor, armed with weapons designed to cut through planetary defenses and gods alike. They had come not for conquest, but erasure. They found nothing. No defense grid. No interceptors. No human ships in orbit. Earth floated serenely in space, its pale blue hue glinting beneath the sun, as unbothered and unarmed as a sleeping tiger in tall grass. Admiral Vrex of the Ellerin, a creature born of war and calculation, scanned the silence with growing unease. "Where is their fleet?" he demanded, mandibles clacking in irritation. "Where is their response?" His comms officer stared at her screen, her tendrils pale with confusion. "Sir, we've intercepted a signal." Vrex narrowed his eyes. "Put it through." The command deck fell silent as the transmission played. It was a single image. Jonah read, lounging in a recliner chair on a beach, holding a drink with a tiny umbrella in it. He smiled and raised the glass. "Greetings," he said, voice warm, infuriatingly casual. "You're early. The barbecue doesn't start for another week." Then he winked. The transmission ended. The bridge exploded into a cacophony of voices. Panic. Confusion. Vrex stood frozen. He knew what this was. Not a bluff. A move. They weren't supposed to be here. And Jonah knew it. Across the sector, hidden human forces surged into motion. Earth's true offensive had never been in Sol. It had never been in any fixed location. Jonah had built a war out of everywhere else. While the Ellerin had thrown everything toward Earth, Earth had quietly walked into their back door and started rearranging the furniture. Within 12 hours, human sleeper agents and cyber warfare teams had activated across over 100 Ellerin installations. Power grids failed. AI guardians shut down. Orbital control was rerouted. Defense algorithms were rewritten by subtle Earth-crafted code that disguised itself as firmware updates and friendly messages. One by one, the Ellerin's core systems fell into silence. Not fire. Not chaos. Just quiet. When Vrex ordered the fleet to retreat, he discovered the navigational relays were looping false star maps. Fuel reserves had been siphoned off remotely by maintenance drones the Ellerin had purchased from a human trade affiliate 2 months prior. The Admiral realized, too late, that humanity had been playing a different game. Not chess. Not war. They had been running an ecosystem hack. Jonah sat at the head of the war room table aboard the diplomacy of fire, not a weapon in sight. He didn't need one. Around him, screens displayed dozens of systems flipping over to human cooperative governance, not through force, but through relief. Relief that Earth had stabilized their infrastructure. Relief that someone, finally, knew how to fix things and smile while doing it. He watched as one by one, the old empires broke like overripe fruit under their own weight. Earth hadn't invaded. It had rebranded galactic civilization. Behind him, Nadia leaned in. Vrex's fleet is locked in system. No fuel. No jump vectors. Half of them are watching human comedy reels in the hopes of decrypting coded orders. The other half are streaming a cooking competition and weeping. And the council? Jonah asked, voice calm. Panicking, she replied. The seer is calling for unconditional talks. Thresk hasn't responded. We think he's fled. Of course he has, Jonah murmured. He rose from his seat. I think it's time we visit. The Council of Unified Galactic Powers convened an emergency session on Delmara Prime, a world chosen for its diplomatic neutrality, which now shook with anxiety as a single human diplomatic cruiser landed in its capital plaza. No weapons visible. No escort. Just Jonah. He walked alone into the chamber, his pace measured, his posture relaxed, his expression that of a man attending a book club where he knew he'd win every argument and bring the best snacks. The chamber fell into a hush as he entered. The seer, pale and luminous, stood. You have done what no species has ever done, Jonah read. I've had practice, he replied, his tone courteous. You've destabilized entire alliances, she said, without firing a single weapon. Jonah inclined his head. We used what we had. Data. Culture. Trust. Manipulation, Thresk growled, reappearing through a private corridor. His silver scales were dulled, his voice shaking with fury. Deception. Psychological warfare. Accurate, Jonah agreed cheerfully. But you left out response. You kidnapped our children, Thresk. You broke the unspoken rule. They were for study. Jonah stepped forward, and for the first time, the room quieted beneath the weight of something deeper. The lightness drained from his eyes. His smile faded. You don't study our children. You protect them. You raise them. You let them grow and fall and bleed and shine. You don't take them. And if you do... He paused. You should pray that what comes for you is quick. We weren't. Silence. The seer bowed her head. What do you want? She asked softly. Jonah looked around the room, slowly. I want every species here to understand what happened. I want you to remember that humanity didn't ask for war. We asked for return. When that was denied, we asked for answers. When that was denied, we came not with hate, but with understanding. He turned his gaze to the gathered representatives. And once we understood what you feared, what you needed, what you refused to admit, we gave it to you. We built the better offer. You hate us not because we destroyed you, but because we replaced you. He gestured to a display now lighting the ceiling dome, images of systems stabilizing under Earth guidance, of colonies reporting food security for the first time in generations, of ancient conflicts ended by small human teams offering negotiation tactics and therapy. You feared our rage, Jonah said. You should have feared our kindness. Because it has never been passive. It's deliberate. Calculated. Weaponized, when necessary. Thresk lunged, claw outstretched, pride finally snapping. But he never made it to Jonah. The seer's hand raised, and a shimmering wall of force dropped Thresk to his knees. It is over, she whispered. Jonah didn't flinch. He only adjusted his sleeve. We won't rule you, he said. That was never the goal. We're not here to install Earth as an overlord. We're here to offer education, help, cooperation. He smiled again, but this time it was gentle. If you want it. And if we refuse? One ambassador asked quietly. Then you're free to, Jonah said. But you'll do it alone. And in this new galaxy, alone is not survivable. He turned, walked out of the chamber without looking back. No one followed. No one stopped him. Because they all knew, the war was over. But the influence, the shadow humanity now cast, was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, dozens of systems petitioned for Earth-based development liaisons. Old rivalries crumbled beneath the efficiency of human-supplied AI moderators, who could resolve 300 disputes a minute and deliver life advice in between. Cultural centers sprang up. Human literature began spreading in thousands of languages. Earth phrases, sarcastic, warm, layered with double meaning, entered galactic lexicons. Children who had been abducted returned to Earth with medals and clearance levels. Most of them now held honorary ranks. A few of them ran their own intel networks. Ms. Jillian retired with 4 planetary awards and a lucrative contract consulting for alien childcare protocols. The galaxy had not just learned a lesson. It had been enrolled in a school it didn't remember applying to. And Earth had become the teacher. Jonah stood on the balcony of a diplomatic station orbiting the neutral moon of Kairos 7. The stars were quiet tonight. Behind him, a new council chamber was being constructed, one co-founded by human and alien architects. Equal representation. Transparent oversight. Peace maintained not by fear of force, but by mutual benefit, and a faint dread of what humans might do if bored. Nadia joined him, 2 glasses of whiskey in hand. "Well," she said. "You did it." "No," Jonas said. "We did. Everyone. 70,000 strong. And every child who held the line before we got there." Nadia clinked her glass with his. "You know the galaxy thinks you're a monster now," she said, not unkindly. Jonah smirked. "Good. Makes them hesitate." She raised an eyebrow. "And if someone tries this again?" "Another kidnapping. Another stunt." Jonah turned back to the stars. "Then we remind them." "Remind them of what?" He smiled faintly. "That monsters can smile too." The stars blinked overhead. And the galaxy, forever changed, listened.